Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Dave Rubenstein, Editor-in-Chief of AIOps Times. I want to welcome you to today's program, Why Automated AIOps is Better Than AIOps, and How Do You Get There? Before we begin, I have a couple of brief announcements. First, today's program is being recorded and will be available on demand in the ITOps.com Learning Center in the next day or so, and attendees will get an email with a link to that recording as well. Second, as this is an interactive panel discussion, we invite you to ask your questions at any point during the program, and we'll answer them as we can. Just go to the control panel in the questions tab and submit it. All right, so here we go. As we've been writing on ITOps Times, IT operations are undergoing big changes with advances in AI and machine learning doing some heavy lifting in terms of managing big data and providing analytics. Today, we're seeing more uptake in automation as companies look to the machines to perform simple repetitive tasks and to offer suggestions and even remediations when problems are detected. Joining me today to talk about this are experts from the Microfocus Operations Bridge Cloud Monitoring team. It's Harold Burrows, Director of Product Management, Gary Brandt, Senior Product Manager, and Wes Cooper, Product Marketing Manager. How you guys doing today?
Hey, we're doing great, David.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right, so let me get started with you, Wes. So tell us about how we got to the term AIOps today and how the evolution of the role of analytics in IT operations has played out.
Sure, David. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward real quick on the next slide. I've got a slide to kind of give us a visual here as we talk about this topic. So really over the last 15 years, we've seen quite a bit of evolution really in the analytics space and how IT operations has adopted analytics over this time period. So in 2005, the term big data analytics was coined by a man, Roger Magalus from O'Reilly Media. And that's really the first time that we saw the mention of big data and how it was affecting IT and operations. And really that was referring to, this wide range of large data sets that were pretty, impossible to manage at the time just because of the tools that were available to manage data of that size and complexity. So shortly after this topic, was kind of introduced in 2005, we started seeing a lot of the IT software industry build solutions that made it easy to manage big data through machine learning to really complement what they were doing on the monitoring side, as well as help provide those visual analytics and log management. You fast forward to 2014, the first use of IT operations analytics, or ITOA, gets coined by Gartner. And ITOA really included the concept of having this big data store, the ability to illustrate business value in IT operations data in one dashboard for executives, and then use really general analytics to get insights both from structured and unstructured data. In 2017, Gartner took this ITOA concept to the next level and coined the term AIOps as what we know today. And that really accounted for the shift to cloud and containers, as well as the needs for organizations to really assimilate all of their data into a single data lake architecture. So we'll talk about that today more as we go about the single data lake architecture and why it's so pivotal to AIOps. But that's where we really started that to come into play in 2017 through Gartner. Now, most recently, in the second half of 2019, we've started seeing the term multi-domain AIOps appear in the market. And this term really highlights the differentiation of domain agnostic versus domain specific vendors. And is inclusive of practices like IT service management. It takes in data from domains like network performance management and diagnostics, DevOps, APM, and of course, IT infrastructure monitoring are all domains that are feeding into AIOps today. So we'll take a little bit deeper dive look at that as we go today, but that's essentially where we've come over the last 15 odd years for analytics and IT operations. It's not a new concept, but it's definitely it's evolved quite a bit over the last several years.
It's a great answer to get us right up to speed with where we're at today. So today, what should organizations be thinking about if they're looking to get some benefit from moving to AIOps?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to show this slide too. So when you're embarking on your AIOps journey, there's really some key things that are being highlighted through. There's several industry analysts that are going at this. All have a pretty similar approach, right? What we're seeing as a consistent theme across what analysts are saying right now is that really the first step is to make sure that you have all of your data in one place so that your machine learning algorithms can act on all of the data that you have. And then, the second step behind that is really to make sure that you have all data types that are being gathered, such as your events, metrics, logs, change and topology data that are being, centralized into one place through collection and storage of that, and giving quick access to that data. Then also, comes in the ability for self-learning to help deliver on, you want a solution that's going to have this machine learning capability to be able to build out the kind of the neural networks and be able to deliver more of a predictive or prescriptive type of way to go out and not just find problems, but help to go and automate the process of remediating them as well. And then, of course, we've talked about from the analyst perspective, right, of how we're in this concept of multi-domain AI ops. So today, AI ops has to be able to, if you're really going to be effective with it, you've got to look at what's coming in from the network. You've got to look at what's coming in from APM and your IT infrastructure monitoring tools, as well as what's coming in from, if you're working with public or private cloud today, being able to have all that data in a common data store that you can go out and quickly analyze that data is very important. And so, beyond what you have there for the requirements, we can talk a little bit about the benefits here that are associated with that. So the top 10 we've seen from Enterprise Management Associates, one of the industry analysts, that they've highlighted really 10 expected benefits for AIOps adoptions that organizations can start seeing today, right? So that's number one is helping to improve employee and customer experience. From your operator's perspective, the companies that we deal with every day, they have hundreds of thousands of events that they're dealing with, and their operators are getting hit by a data storm on the daily, right? So they need, this capability to be able to cut down to the 1 or 2% of the most important events or information and see how that's tied back to business services, right? And being able to do that quickly and efficiently ultimately helps to improve the operator's workload, and it also is in turn going to help improve the customer experience over time. It'll help lead to things like faster time to repair problems, because you're able to predictively see problems that are coming down the pipeline, or see how these events are rolling in, and then be able to be more prescriptive with how you fix those on the back end with automation. We've got some things that we can talk about that too. And then
so
Harold,
one thing
yeah.
to add there is interesting. You had it in a sentence, in a side sentence, but I think I like to stress that a little bit more to make sure it comes out clear. And that is what we see is becoming more important. Obviously, we do it as a vendor for a while, but you see it in the AIOps market now, people adopting more the relationship, or what we would internally call the servicing modeling of the data. Why is it relevant? Because if you look at the all the data as it comes in, having an understanding on how things relate together and how things are building up together and play in an orchestra to play the right music together rather than a single instrument, and understanding that together when you're doing the analytics is becoming key to get quickly to these benefits. As Wes was saying that in one of the side sentences when it came to understanding root cause, etc., and you see really all the vendors adding in different ways of understanding of the service modeling and being able to really say these elements are related to each other, and they actually are. I'm expecting them to deliver me certain things together in an orchestra or in a quorum. And whether you do that by configuring or whether you derive it from the data, there are different technologies out in the market on how you actually can do that. So that is something which I think is important.
Okay. So let me ask you this question then. So when you're talking about AIOps or even automated ops, so usually people understand that to mean machine learning, is going to take away those mundane tasks that we were talking about earlier, or respond more quickly, or reduce human error, things like that. But isn't it really all just automated monitoring?
Yeah, that's another really good question, David. I've got I want to go forward one slide to align kind of a three-step method kind of behind this. So I'll start answering your question like this. So there's really two parts to this concept of automated AIOps, and really the first part of that is machine learning. So the goal here is really to take this overwhelming amount of data and to make sense out of it, and really point operators to potential problems, or if the problem is existing now, to get them right in front of it. The second part is that once you know what that problem is, using automation, you can take the mundane task away from the operators, and more importantly, you're removing that human error out of the equation. So we really see this as a three-step process, right? We've talked about it's consolidation of data, having the single data store platform to work off of, and being able to collect that data, multiple forms of data in from those different domains, such as networks, applications, servers, third parties that you're working with, or through cloud vendors. So being able to consolidate that, machine learning and automated analytics, and I'll let Harold and Gary explain on this concept of what we're doing or what we're seeing in the market of how you can best apply machine learning and automated analytics to drive multiple forms of correlation and learning to really help lighten the load on operators, really help to get to root cause, and be able to see how those are tied to business services directly. That third step is getting to automate through remediation, right? And having multiple forms of that. I'm going to stop though. I want to let Harold and Gary expand on kind of those step 2 and step 3 of the equation, as I think there's some really some good information they could offer there.
Yeah, I think yes, I can go over those different areas. Second, I want to also comment on the other side. If you're looking at it's just like automate monitoring, you might think of just looking at what you do today and apply machine learning on it. As Wes was having on his first slide, it's really about the data and getting the right data into a data lake and getting insight that you did not expect. If you just think about automate what you monitor today, and basically just take that forward and not expanding it by getting additional data into your data lake, you're not getting to the full value of a machine learning platform, because it might point out to you when you do forensic research, root cause analysis, or other activities, items that you would not expect. Now, looking at these different areas that we would do in terms of machine learning, what we could do there with machine learning, one thing also, one of the reasons why we call it automated AIOps being important is that we'd like this machine learning to start without any configuration. As soon as it sees data, it suggests you things that it actually identifies in the data. When I say that, that could be suggesting which are the important log messages that currently are in your log files that you want to look at. What are the events that you want to correlate together, or correlating them together for you? What are the metrics that actually are misbehaving and creating out of that either automatically alert or just showing to you, typically called an anomaly detection. So you can really have multiple different ways of working with the data, whether it's metric data, whether it's log data, whether it's event data, out of which we point out that element. So really applying the machine learning and automated means starting it without you needing to configuring anything, then pointing the data to that solution. Second piece then is that you need to be able to adjust it and make it learn and adjust it for your environment. As not everything is actually common. If you get something in and you look at a specific result out of the machine learning, let's, for example, an automatic correlated event, you might want to say, no, I don't think that is right. At the end, it's still a machine. A machine can only extract from the data what it sees. It might not have the full knowledge yet of the environment. That's why the service understanding that I was talking about earlier is so important, because with that, you actually add some knowledge to the machine that it wouldn't be aware of. For the machine, these are all independent, unless it has context, all independent elements. So a automated element, and then a element of learning as a key element. Anything you want to add to that, Gary?
No, I mean, Harold, I think you hit all the key points there. I think Dave, to answer, the only thing I'd answer to your question about the distinction between automated AIOps and just automated monitoring is, if you look at monitoring and in general, you're typically instrumenting something that you know about, right? A specific target, a specific database or application, network device, et cetera, with some kind of preset thresholds or even a static configuration rule or something, but it's known in advance, right? I think where AIOps plays is it's bringing that realm of the unknown, right? Being able to reveal those blind spots or those unknown trends in the data that you're monitoring. And then that really is the only way to make that become apparent when you're looking at things holistically at the data over time. As Harold was mentioning, it brings that context, from which those insights you can derive things like automated actions and operations. So sort of the realm of the known and the unknown, right? And that's where analytics on top of the right data play.
Yeah, and I think the automated action is a key item there as a step 3. That's what I was talking about, really the learning of the environment. If you see a problem reoccurring, something that is happening in your environment, having the system automatically drive certain activities on certain systems, actions that are automatically kicking in, providing, as the operators look at it, a pre-sorted list based on previous things that helped in that environment, in order to quickly let them identify if it's not clear yet what to do, how potentially fixing the problem that they are looking at, right? So, and that's the other piece of automated AIOps. One is, as I said, making that machine learning or AI start working as the data gets in immediately. The second piece is also the step 3, though, where the automation at the end lead towards the remediation and assisting that. Because at the end of the day, what do we want to achieve? We actually want to make sure that the system keeps running and we are fixing problems as quickly as possible. Maybe foreseeing things to happen by using the algorithm, and then using the automation at the tail end to prevent things from happening in the very ideal case. So having that automation step at the end of it, being able to plug into this end-to-end story is really a key element of that one as well.
Hey, and it looks like too, we've got a question that's come in here, David, Harold, and Gary, from one of our audience members. So I'll just read this real quick while we're on this topic. How can you accurately take deterministic actions, automated remediation, from statistically derived conclusions that have less than 100% certainty?
Yeah, Wes, that's a great question, and I think as Microfocus and a lot of vendors and analysts were all proponents of machine learning and AI and just advanced analytics. It's important not to lose sight, or you have to acknowledge that. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all mathematics and statistics and inference, right? That's driving this, and there will be false positives. And that's true across the board, irrespective of a vendor, a technology, or choice, or whatever. So you have to balance that, right? And you have to understand what reduces those false positives. So being able to bring context, and context through data. And when, Wes, in a previous, I think in a previous slide or previous comment you made, being able to bring data that tells a full picture to kind of build that evidence, right? So that's things like not just event data, but event data with metric data, with topology data, with log data, holistically and from different sources. That's the type of data that will drive context to drive down the false positives by increasing the confidence in what is being derived or inferred through the analytics. So it's important to look at technologies and vendors who are bringing all that type of data to bear in the analytics that they drive versus looking at just a narrow lane or realm or scope of what they're monitoring and what analytics they're applying on top of that narrow scope of data.
Yeah, then maybe when it comes into two actions, same way as I said from a machine learning there in the middle, it's a learning system. The question is absolutely right. At the very beginning, you see first time something, there's a set of actions that you could execute and pick from. Which one is the right one, right? It's like you looking at a laundry list and going like, gee, well, what are I doing? So there's some help in the data, it's a database maybe, or that you can derive things on how to pre-filter it. But as you go through the system, one key element is of the system of learning. You do certain things, and the things actually help. The system can start to learn which one are helping, which one are not helping, and the next time you're going in, you have another and see a similar error, you actually have a pre-sorted list of things that were successful. And the longer you run it, the more you can then even automate it towards end to end. Yes, as Gary was saying, it will remain because it's the statistical item, certain uncertainty, but this learning effect, which is exactly what we would do as a human as well. How do I know that I need to brake on my mountain bike if I'm going down a certain hill at a certain point in time? Because I have done it before. Likely I have done a mistake as a kid once and fall down, right? Same thing here. System learns as it goes on.
Excellent. So certainly it seems like we've now talked about the title question of why is automated AIOps better than just AIOps. But Wes, let me ask you, so what are some of the obstacles to getting towards automation and, of course, the benefits, which I think we've talked a little bit about already?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are several when we talk about automation and benefits that, we expect some obstacles and benefits, and there's some from what we're seeing from the data, in particular from analysts, is that the top three obstacles are all around cost and budgeting issues, resistance to change, or lack of executive support. I've got these first, boxes highlighted between really the obstacles and the benefits, and that's between, we see the overlap between cost and budgeting issues, right, to be able to support more advanced levels of automation. And there's a direct correlation from the benefit there of the cost savings that it can provide across IT. So of course, it's very important that when you're looking at implementing automation, yes, there are concerns. There is going to likely be some resistance to change, but there are certainly several benefits that are outweighed from this, of course. We've seen customers that we've worked with that have employed a high level of automation. One of our customers has actually gotten to the point where they have automated 98% of executive actions within their IT operations. And what this has allowed them to do is it's allowed them to help free up some of their full-time employees and help, purpose them on innovation projects within their IT operations team. And it's saved them a good bit, not just on, necessarily a cost of an employee, but also the cost of outages that have occurred or errors that have occurred. They saved over $1 million of cost within their first year of implementing. So pretty amazing stuff there, right? They still got operators that are looking over, some of the unknowns that are coming in, of course, right, or some of the newer issues, but most actions in this case are being automated through a virtualized workforce or through chat ops today. Harold and Gary, I know that you guys could provide maybe a little bit more insight into what some of our customers have seen, from implementing a high level of automation.
So before I do that, I'd like to cover another item from an obstacle perspective, which is in the human nature, right? At the end of the day, we're dealing with environments where operators, and I think you have it a little bit in the resistance there, where operators have been doing this for their career, right? They have been doing this for many years, and then why would a machine do it better than I do, right? Any technology assistance that we are start to use as humans, right? Good example is I always like being in German is from the car industry, right? The first time I used an automatic speed control and braking system approaching a traffic jam, I was nervous whether the car actually would stop, right? But it worked, right? But for sure, the first time I experienced this, my foot was right on top of the brake system because I believe I could do it better. Now, as we use it more and more, we trust it more and more, and actually that works well. Now, in terms of what type of automation, in terms of AI, our customers from ours are benefiting, and what the result they're getting out of it. A good example is a large energy company storing all the data into a central place, into their data lake. And they were actually looking into root cause analysis, specifically what we would call unknown problems. Gary was alluding to it earlier, that automated monitoring or monitor automation is really about the things you know. The things you know are pretty straightforward. You can set a threshold. You can immediately say if a disk is full, have an action that cleans out a certain directory, right? Pretty straightforward. But what is with these things you don't know? What is these elements where why are things actually slow today? And there is no obvious infrastructure failure. Analyzing it and identifying that maybe a service provider that you're right now using for a inter-data center connectivity link has an issue, and being able to look at that centrally in a single place is kind of those type of use cases where machine learning helps you to point out things that are happening at the same time. And this specific customer that I was talking about, we're using the capability of log analytics, where we're pointing out actually significant messages in the log files, and we're able to wire that to up to 90% and above to reduce the overall mean time to repair, because they were much faster finding in these unknown problem cases the root cause. And thus increasing the uptime of the applications and reducing overall the time it takes. Also, the process changed. Rather than having a classical ballroom where you're sitting in front of multiple different independent screens, looking at your data, trying to make sense out of it, trying to get them to the same scale, get them overlaid at the same time. Now you have a single person looking at a single screen and a single dashboard that he constructs himself, and he can pull any type of data into it, as one of the examples.
Let me jump in here. You were talking about root cause, and we have a question from one of our attendees who says that her root cause analysis at her company shows that many failures come from end and third order nonlinear effects. So she was wondering if you have any statistics on how quickly these nonlinear time delayed impacts are defined.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any hard statistics on that. We have customers who, if you look at where we've implemented analytics, particularly machine learning, it primarily has been in our root cause analysis and IT forensics capabilities, which looks at a time dimension across all types of data, whether it's metrics, events, or log data. And what the goal there is to flush out in an automated way, essentially suggesting what are the most significant things to be focusing on. And that can vary depending on what the data sources are, what type of data that's predominantly in the environment and stuff. So it varies from customer to customer. We haven't, that we don't necessarily, track at that level of granularity. We have a lot of examples from customers who have revealed those significant items and unknowns and have applied them in different ways, and that's that actionable aspect. So really getting to meaningful action to take, everything from optimizing monitoring policies by finding insights into from the data as to what monitoring is effective and not effective. So that's actually a case study we did with a customer who found that and reduced just sheer number of events flowing in through optimizing their monitoring policies and what they monitor and how they monitor. And again, that's an example of looking at data holistically through the lens of or with the assistance of machine learning to reveal those types of patterns, something you can't do easily just in a day-to-day type of flow of metrics. Other examples are in war room busting, where we have any large IT organization may be convening subject matter experts in one of those all hands on deck situations to understand, okay, what's the causal aspects of a situation. And many of our customers who use our root cause analysis analytic capabilities tell us that they're able to reduce the number of people that they would otherwise need to have conversations with, because they can narrow down the scope almost instantaneously of what the scope or the realm of the problem is, versus bringing in experts from everywhere trying to do that reduction. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I can't answer specifically. I don't have statistics on that, but I was trying to give some flavors of how we do use analytics in a root cause scenario.
Very interesting. So let me ask you, based on that answer, so what parts of ITOM and ITSM are agreed upon as the areas that can most quickly get value and benefit from AI?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. For that one, I'm going to let Harold and Gary, if you guys would want to take that one off and start us. I've just flashed up a slide that would kind of relate to what we'll talk about here.
Yeah, so I think what you see there on the right is actually what we define as a detect to correct process, or closed loop incident processing. And if you're looking at that circle, there is really each step here is benefiting more or less from analytical capabilities. If it is from an eventing perspective, having the ability to automatically correlate events as they are coming in, telling the user and that actually a couple of events are correlated together and pointing out to the same potential root cause. That overall then reduces the events. If the events then automatically get created as a ticket, obviously it reduces the overall end-to-end ticket volume, and that helps you from a mean time to repair. Problem isolation, we just talked about from a root cause analysis perspective. Gary gave some examples on how we utilize it from a forensic perspective, really being able to look at all the data at the same time, as well as getting pointed out to anomalies that are happening in your data set as you're looking into it by the means of various overlays, is really helping to reduce the overall time there. Business impact is the whole understanding on, okay, which business actually is impacted, the service understanding that I was talking about. So that's not only looking at the metric and events from a monitoring perspective, but also what we call the topology, the service understanding, and then from that driving a impact analysis of the overall service. When it comes to remediation, I talked about when we had the question around how we really can deterministically drive the action, the whole learning aspect of it, watching what the user is doing, what actions are executed, learn which actions are actually helping, saving and improving the overall environment, which one not, which one are frequently being used. Based upon that, drive logic, which things are automatically selected, which one are automatically executed, which one are actually prioritized in lists that I want to offer for operator. So this gives you a little nice overview on how in the processing from a detect to correct, actually the analytics will help and accelerate some of the delivery of the overall monitoring or service management. Gary, you want to extend on that?
Trying to get myself off mute. No, I think you covered it well, Harold. I agree with the points you made.
So let me jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, to me, the million-dollar question now is, how do people get from where they are now with their monitoring and service management to AIOps? How do they do that?
Absolutely. So great question there. And just to piggyback on kind of as we transition to that question, David, just to piggyback on there, we have a white paper available that talks about really the state of IT analytics and IT operations and shows really the benefits across multiple areas. So there we've just kind of talked about the overlap in AIOps between monitoring and ITSM and this idea of closed loop incident process. There's some mention of that in this white paper. There's also some really other good nuggets that are in there, really talking about how AI capabilities are embedded into IT ops management tools, how you can leverage what you already own today. So this is a great white paper that we have available out there. So to go back to your question, when we talk about how to get from where you are with your monitoring and service management processes today and get those to AIOps, we've seen from the analyst, right? We've seen from those studies that on average, organizations are integrating over 23 tools today, which is really, in a lot of cases, it's 23 different silos of data. So there's really three primary steps from getting to standard monitoring and service management to get on that road to automated AIOps. Now, we've showed this slide a few times today. I think repetition is key, but again, step one is all about getting all of that data from multiple domains and sources into one place. So some consolidating into an event and performance consolidation tool that can take in metrics from, not just metrics, but events, metrics, logs, topology data in from a wide variety of sources and process that data. So consolidation is nothing that's new, but it's the amount of data points that we're taking in from those different systems and workloads today that's really key. The two remaining steps there again are, it's really all about implementing the AI and automation. And really in this regard, either order works, right? We have customers that have gone about this both ways. But automation it might be the easier path to start for a lot of people, right? Automation and orchestration have been around for well over 10 years now, and from what we see in the marketplace and in the industry today, a lot of companies have been implementing some form of automation, right? So they're already kind of on that journey or path. Now, the other path is to start using AI on the data that you've collected in that one location. And then it's just a matter of connecting that AI back to automation. And, that's really going to help you deliver on this concept of what we're talking about AIOps here. But Gary, Harold, feel free to weigh in on that. I'm sure that there's more more color that could be provided.
Yeah, I mean, Wes, I think customers are going to have different starting points, especially mature organizations that have been investing in IT for quite some time. But I think the journey an organization takes and how quickly they realize value depends not only on technology choices, but also having a solid understanding of the space or the domain that they're trying to address. For example, are they tackling a specific domain like application performance or network space, or are they wanting to realize value across multiple domains? But the technology choices they need to make should strategically align with their broader objectives. And there's a lot of domain specific technologies and tools out in the market, but you need to consider technology choices that address the full scope of the solution and use cases. And as you were just mentioning, Wes, the data that each of those things produce, because without having that that understanding or that strategic plan, then you may experience AI and automation tools sprawl across your organization, and then down the road find yourself having to do all these crazy integrations and a lot of piecemeal technology solutions that don't really achieve that value that you were starting off on.
Yeah, and I think maybe as we consolidate, obviously starting point being that place you storing it together, typically in this space called big data lake. I think the other element that is important on your technology choice there is really you're likely going to start out with some out-of-the-box tool set provided by whatever vendor you pick solution, right? Let it be automatic correlation, let it be anomaly detection, let it be log analytics, whatever, some out-of-the-box machine learning. But it's relevant to also then have the option to down the road as you get more into the journey of AIOps, to have the opportunity to extend that and have a platform that you can have more data than the tool itself is collecting itself to store into. So have an openness from a data insertion perspective. Why is that relevant? Because as we said earlier, and as Gary was just saying, it's really data insight that you're extracting from non-expected environments, and being able to, in addition to the standard monitoring elements, have the ticket information in that data lake, have the application development information in that data lake. So consolidating it at the end into a central place and being able to analyze it end to end is a key item. And the second piece of extensibility is not just the data insertion, but also go beyond the out-of-the-box solutions, right? As you are progressing in that journey and maturing in that journey, you might want to extend beyond what is there in the tool set from out-of-the-box solution. And then having that capability is a key item as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Harold. I was going to bring that question up. Since AIOps is driven by data, do organizations need a data scientist to work on their AIOps projects? And I ask because I know it's hard these days. Organizations are saying that it's very difficult for them to find the people that have the right knowledge and experience to do those types of tasks.
Yeah, so as I was saying, you don't need it to start. But what we have seen, our customers who are doing this for a while, we had a customer speak at our internal event 2 years ago, where they actually started as well. But after a while, they were like, okay, now I'm interested in specific data insights. So they were going beyond what we're providing out of the box from a solution perspective. So it's not an absolutely must. So the data scientist is not there to get started, right? You don't need to get started. As we're stressing, you need to make sure that the data is there, that you think about which data you put in there, and get that loaded into the system. Once it is there, then you typically have some out-of-the-box capabilities and values that you should be extracting automatically by just using the tool, as it's automated correlated event, as I was mentioning, or automated anomalies identified in logs or metrics or whatever, right? Those type of capabilities. And then as you are wanting to exploit it, and that's optionable further, that's where you then can start thinking about down the road a data scientist to further exploit it, but not as a must from a starting point of view.
Gotcha. All right, just to kind of change tack a little bit here. So we know that IT organizations struggle with changes, especially to the infrastructure and managing the network, two of those big challenges. So does artificial intelligence have a role in helping organizations out with that?
Yeah, David, this is Gary. Absolutely. I think, a major, change facing both infrastructure and network management is just a sheer volume of data that devices and applications and hybrid IT produce today. You think back when we had solutions that ran on an EPR, the ERP solution or an HR solution or a procurement solution. They were pretty much well defined and predictable amounts of data, predictable number of network devices and number of servers that comprise that solution. It was much easier to do management, operation management on those types of ecosystems. But today the world's become virtual, and I'm sure our folks in the audience know they're probably working day to day, keeping these types of complex environments alive and making sure their business services and solutions are up and running and meeting SLAs. It's become incredibly complex. So as those number of servers grow and that volume increases, in turn, increasing the complexity and tracking down root cause problems in network and in application really are somewhat dependent on one another, right? The data gets blended, and here's where AI can really bring value and help quickly process huge amounts of data, right? From everything from ingesting it, analyzing it, and providing different insights into it. Finding things like patterns that humans can't really discern themselves. So finding those patterns and giving benefits, one in detecting anomalies before they impact users, another one, benefits that once a problem has occurred, those patterns will help you narrow down what that root cause is. And some of those examples I gave previously, but the data really bringing the data together from those two different domains, right, the network domain and the application domain, really help bring that context to quickly isolate problems or reduce false positives and things like that from just a variety of data in your data lake. Great.
So I know that in our coverage we've seen that the AIOps market is really growing. A lot of options out there, a lot of alternatives for people. So maybe you can explain how Microfocus, how you guys differentiate your offering from others in the market.
Yeah, absolutely, David. So I'll go ahead and I just moved us forward on our next slide. So when we talk about how specifically at Microfocus of how we are delivering AIOps, we really see ourselves as a domain agnostic AIOps type vendor. And what we mean by that is, we provide, of course, we've been in the monitoring space for 20 plus years now, right? So if you look kind of at the model that we're building towards, this is where we're really aligning to the analysts, right, of this model around AIOps that is built on observe, engage, and act. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this. But essentially, from our perspective at Microfocus, we've been in the monitoring game for a long time. So as we've talked about today, it's very important that you be able to monitor against all of the different domains that are feeding into AIOps today, whether that's network performance monitoring, application performance monitoring, digital experience monitoring, IT infrastructure monitoring, and even tying in with your ITSM tool sets, really to have this wide, broad observability, as you would call it, across all of those different environments and data sets. So from the monitoring capabilities, of course, we provide an automated solution to go out there and discover those assets across all those different domains and help you do the monitoring of that. And then we provide the dashboards and the reporting on top of all of those environments to really give you those actionable real-time insights that align the IT organization to business level objectives. So we've talked about, yes, of course, from our perspective, we've been in this monitoring game for a long time. From Microfocus, you will find that we do in each of those domains that I've mentioned, we have monitoring capabilities in. The beauty of what we do from our perspective in OpsBridge is we're helping to consolidate all of that event, metric, log, and topology data from all of those different sources into one centralized or consolidated performance and event management platform. So today we have over integrations from over 200 plus domains, and we've seen our customers through using this capability to do this consolidated operations and advanced correlation, that they've been able to reduce event volumes by over 90%. I will make the case too that from Microfocus, we're very vendor agnostic, right? So we understand that our customers, for network monitoring, they might not use our network node manager, they might use SolarWinds, right? You might be using BMC Remedy for Service Desk or ServiceNow. You might be using other tools for APM like Dynatrace or New Relic. And from our end, we're all well and good with that. We have the solid integrations, and we're able to bring all of those different domain data sources into one spot to allow you to do that correlation and really, layer on even today with machine learning and analytics to help, learn those events as they're coming in and help make informed decisions. So then, from the engage perspective, I've talked a little bit about that consolidated performance and event management. APM, or application health and user experience management, of course, is another domain we've talked about. And we have currently been providing solution in that marketplace for well over 15 years now. And that's a solidly integrated piece into what we're doing for AIOps today. We have talked a lot about, and I would say one of our main differentiators at Microfocus, and I'll let Harold and Gary expand, is our ability to do the automation. When you look at the market that we're in, a lot of vendors don't do this automation piece, right? They're integrating with third parties, which in turn is another, vendor or support contract that you're having to maintain. We've been in this space for well over 10 years. We have over 8,000 out-of-the-box workflows that we've developed in our orchestration tool today. And of course, we support ChatOps integration. So popular teams like our popular tool sets there, like MS Teams, Slack, or Mattermost, we support all those. And these are all helping to really improve mean time to resolution and just overall employ higher efficiency for the operations team. And then, of course, all of this is built or being delivered from our AIOps perspective. Everything is being built upon this single data lake architecture of what we're doing with collect once, store once, is what we call it here at Microfocus. And that's all built upon Vertica. which is a very high-performing columnar database that companies like Facebook and Uber have been depending on their business for several years now. So Harold and Gary, I'm sure, have a lot that they could share, but from a high level, when people think about AIOps from Microfocus, we're different in the market in the instance that we provide the monitoring for all of those different domains, of course, but we can also do collection from our own tools, as well as over 200 integrations, and help you centralize that data no matter what vendor that you're working with. And then we provide the automation on top of that to help you, resolve those issues and have greater efficiency within your operations. Harold and Gary, anything you want to add to that?
I think you phrased it. What I would maybe add another item there is, and you mentioned that we'll be doing certain things for a while. So when you look at a lot of the tools that are out there, it's quite often a AIOps toolset built on AIOps technology. But what we do is uniquely we combining and nicely complementing what our customers have enjoying over many years in the standard toolset with AI technology. So we still have the ability to set a fixed threshold. We as very well on the other side could use baselining in order to automatically determine if something goes out of metric behavior. So combining those together, going back to the car analogy, we're not just a car that just drives completely autonomously and you have no way to interact with it from a car driver. We're actually combining both technologies together, giving you the full control as well as allowing you to use the AI technology. And that is a very powerful element because it allows you to combine those two things together.
Yeah, and Wes, I would just add to that on the AI part of it. We recognize that a lot of our customers are operation teams who don't have the luxury of having data scientists on staff. So we have that in mind when we build and deliver our AI capabilities in the context of our use cases. By trying to make that aspect as turnkey as possible. So things like, we use a lot of unsupervised machine learning, so there's not a lot of predefined labels and training that you need to put forth, and we dynamically create baselines on metrics and stuff without having to do a lot of configuration. So we try to make that assistance, right, that augmentation that Harold was just mentioning, for the users as turnkey as possible. I think that's a big differentiator in Microfocus's approach, as well as Nick mentioned earlier, we are built on a data lake on top of Vertica, and Vertica comes out of the box with a full-blown analytic and machine learning tool set. So for those organizations who do have those data scientist skills or the desire to build their own machine learning and analytic models, you have the ability to do that on top of the same data sets that you're using in operations and for different consumption models in your organization. So we offer sort of the best of both worlds, addressing the different personas that our customers are have in their organizations.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like we're right up against the hour, and any questions that we didn't get to, we'll try to answer via email. And so I would just like to thank real fast Harold, Gary, and Wes for the great presentation today. Really interesting look at the topic of AIOps. Certainly like to thank Microfocus for sponsoring today's program. And of course, I'd like to thank all of you for spending some time with us today. So until next time, I'm Dave Rubenstein from AIOps Times. So long for now.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.